Hello, and today we are going to discuss Geneva Convention on Territorial Sea and Contiguous Zone. So this is the second route that we are taking in this Law of Sea series. The Geneva Convention on Territorial Sea and Contiguous Zone 1958 is the part of the UN Clause 1, which had 4 conventions. Out of this, one is this convention. The UN Clause 1 was held in 1958. One of this is the main convention out of the 4, right? So to understand this, let's just analyze this graph here. This diagram. So we understand this, that this is land. For example, here this is the territorial sea. That is, whenever the high tide or low tide comes, the point at which it makes the land break, from that point the baseline is calculated, right? So baseline is the line from which these zones, the zone of territorial sea, the zone of contiguous zone, the EEZ, exclusive economic zone, and the high seas, etc., are calculated from this baseline. So this baseline is the base camp, we can say. So from this land itself, we will calculate the baseline where the sea makes landfall. The point is the baseline. From there, 12 nautical miles, NM is nautical miles. 1 nautical mile is equal to 1.852 kilometers, right? So from here, we will calculate that from the baseline to 12 nautical miles towards seaward side would be the territorial sea. Now just look above the word territorial sea, national airspace as well. So this implies that the line of at which the territorial sea breaks into contiguous zone, this line, that is the line from baseline to the break of this line, that is 12 nautical miles, all the area above it and above the land itself would be the airspace, national airspace, right? So the space above the territorial sea is also national. The space on the land is also national. So this is a national airspace, and 12 nautical miles begin from here. Rest we will study in later videos, right? Just to give another top eye view. So from here, if we see from the top, we see that this is the coast or the beach, you can say, or the land, right? So from here we are drawing baseline, a line drawn along the coast wherever the water makes landfall, right? This we will understand later, what are internal waters, what is a baseline, and how this is drawn in this way. But if one imaginary line is drawn, from this line itself to 12 nautical miles is the territorial sea, to beyond 12, from this line to this line is the contiguous zone, and contiguous zone encompasses the territorial sea as well, although it's now a gray area. And then from baseline to 200 nautical miles is the EEZ, exclusive economic zone. So all the territorial sea is within the EEZ, the territorial sea is within the contiguous zone, and the exclusive economic zone is encompassing everything, and beyond the EEZ is the international waters. We will understand what is this concept of continental shelf in the coming videos, so stay tuned. The sovereign territory of a state extend to its recognized land boundaries and to the border of airspace and outer space above them. A state that has coastal boundary also possesses certain areas of the sea. It possesses the certain areas of the sea, and these areas which it has complete sovereignty on them are the territorial sea. So these are regulated by 4 separate 1958 conventions, that is the Convention on the Territorial Sea and Contiguous Zone, which we are studying here, that is of 1958, the Convention on the Continental Shelf, the Convention on the High Seas, and Convention on Fishing Resources and Living Resources of the High Seas, right? So this was the earlier convention, 1958 convention. Later on, there was a 1982 convention and also the UN Clause 2, in which there was nothing substantive that had been come out. But for now, we will be focusing on this territorial sea and contiguous zone, mainly the territorial sea, right? So here, just a idea of what a baseline is and how you can draw a baseline, because we will be covering it in the next. See, a baseline is a line that is drawn along the coast, right? Just forget this. It's a line drawn along the coast. But what if the coast is heavily indented or deeply indented, like this? Indentations, inwards indentations. These are indentations. So for that, the outermost points are seen, and then we draw a baseline along those lines. Straight lines, straight baselines. So this is a straight baseline, right? And if there are fringing islands, then we can also draw straight baselines on the fringing islands as well, not attached to the coast, right? But these should be substantively close to that. We will come to this in the next. A state has sovereignty over its territorial sea, but they are subject to the right of innocent passage, that is, the right of all shippings to pass through the territorial waters states, provided the passage is not prejudicial, right? So, for a territorial sea or in the territorial sea, in this area itself, right, in this area has the state has full sovereignty over this area. It can do whatever it wants. It is considered similar status as is considered to the internal waters or the rivers, the lakes inside the land, right? So on the land, as it has full territorial integrity and sovereignty, same is the status in the internal waters, and same should be this is the status in the territorial sea. Exception is only one. That exception is the right of innocent passage, right? Innocent passage is a passage by which the ships of other foreign states, the warships, including the warships, pass through these waters for innocent purposes. That is just for passing through, to going from one place to another, etc., etc. So that is the right of innocent passage. Example of prejudicial conduct, but this innocent passage should not be prejudicial, and prejudicial conduct is prejudicial to the coastal state. That is the coastal state, the state on whose coast the ships are plying. So this includes the threat or use of force, spying, willful or serious pollution, breaches of customs, sanitary, fiscal, and immigration regulations, and of fishing. So none of this is allowed when you are claiming innocent passage in the territorial sea of any coastal state. Coastal states may exercise a limited degree of criminal jurisdiction with regard to foreign ships that are engaged in innocent passage through their territorial seas. Example, in cases where the consequences of crime are alleged extend to the coastal state, or where such measures are necessary for suppression of traffic of illicit drugs. So, for criminal jurisdiction only, the coastal state has full sovereignty over this, even if they are claiming innocent passage but are doing certain activities which are prejudicial to the coastal state, which includes, for example, illicit trafficking of drugs, etc., right? So to suppress those illicit trafficking of drugs, or the crime that is committed which involves the coastal state or the people of the coastal state, then that coastal state can exercise limited degree of criminal jurisdiction in that cases. The 58 Convention on the Territorial Sea and Contiguous Zone provide that the ships cannot suspend the innocent passage of foreign ships. The states cannot suspend the innocent passage of foreign ships through straits that are used for international navigation between one part of the high seas to another part of the high seas, or the territorial sea of the foreign state. So straits. The concept here is straits. Straits are just pathways that are connecting two parts of the high seas, or two parts EEZ of one to the high seas, or EEZ of one state to the EEZ of another state, that is exclusive economic zone, or from the high seas to the exclusive economic zone of one or any coastal state. So for example, if we take this example here, so imagine that this land is also present in this zone, right? Forget this. Land is present here as well. Let me draw, insert shapes. Yes, so imagine that there is a land present here, right? And there is a land here as well. So in this case, it is so thin, the waterway is so thin that it'll be categorized as strait. We will define the strait in the coming lectures or the videos. So the strait, in this strait, the parties are not allowed to exercise their rights of territorial sea, etc., if they claim it as a strait, or if they allow the ships to ply through it as a strait. So in straits, uh, these straits are connecting one part of the high seas to another part of the high seas, or from one exclusive economic zone to another exclusive economic zone. So for example, if we make a shape in the form that this is sea, we just color it blue for the theme and we copy paste it here. So this is seas, but these are two land spaces wherein we have a strait. So this is a sea and this is also a sea, right? For example, this is a sea and this is also a sea. In that case, this this becomes a strait, and for a strait, right, so this is a strait in this context, and for this to be applicable, so this conducts the passage of ships from high sea to maybe a high sea. So this can also be a high sea, or from an EEZ of one state. So for example, exclusive economic zone of one state to high seas, or it can be vice versa, right? So it can be like this, from high seas to exclusive economic zone, etc., etc., right? So this is a definition of strait, right? Now in this context, let's read further, right? So in this, we were here, I guess. Yes, we were here. The 1982, now the later treaty of UN Clause 3 came into picture in 1982. So these earlier treaties of 58 were not abolished or were not repealed, but they were not all encompassing of all the laws, etc. They had some gray areas. So a new treaty had come into picture in 1982. This treaty of the year, that is called the Law of Sea Treaty 1982, or the UN Clause 3, established a new right of transit passage for the purpose of contiguous and expeditious transit in straits used for international navigation between one part of the high seas exclusive economic zone and another. Some international straits are subject to special regimes, etc. But the EEZ itself, why? Because the concept of EEZ was first introduced in the 1982 treaty. So before that, in the 1958 treaties, there were no EEZ. There was only contiguous zone, a territorial sea, or the high seas, right? So a series of other maritime zones extend beyond the territorial sea, that is the contiguous zone, the EEZ, etc., etc. Contiguous zone may be claimed. The automatic is the territorial sea only. So automatic claim is on the territorial sea, nothing else. But contiguous zone, that land territory or the coastal state has to claim that this much is my contiguous zone, or I am claiming a contiguous zone and it can only extend up to 24 nautical miles from the baseline, right? So it is claimed. The EEZ is also claimed, but the territorial sea is automatic, right? In this case, the contiguous allows coastal state to exercise the control necessary to prevent, punish infringement of customs, sanitary, etc., etc. So here, in the territorial sea and the contiguous zone, the main difference is that in the territorial sea, you have every sovereign right as you have on land, except for innocent passage, allowing innocent passage over the ships. But in the contiguous zone, you have certain jurisdiction limited only to sanitary, fiscal, immigration, etc., etc., right? This is what they have talked about. Sanitary, customs, fiscal, and immigration only. Now this zone is again established when extended to 12 nautical miles from the territorial sea, right? The EEZ developed out of the claims of fishing zones, right? it was not there in the earlier, but in 1982 treaty it was established. The 82 treaty allowed states to claim such a zone extended 200 nautical miles from baselines, in which they would possess sovereign rights to explore, exploit, conserve, manage natural resources of the seas and seabed, to exercise jurisdiction over artificial installations and scientific research, and to protect, preserve the marine environment. Right. So these are various terms of the 1982. This was to exploit. This came from the claims of fishing zones. Right. This was then to exploit, explore, conserve, and manage natural resources of the seas and the seabed, which was till the limit of the EEZ, Exclusive Economic Zone. It was accepted as a part of customary international law in ICJ 1958-85 decision in the dispute between Libya and Malta, which concerned the delimitation of the continental shelf between them. Right. So this zone was again accepted. It was there in 1982 and was accepted by the ICJ itself in 1985. The state is automatically entitled to exercise sovereign rights to explore and exploit the natural resources of a distant coastal shelf, continental shelf, that is the ledges projecting from the land to under the sea. The shelf may extend either to 200 nautical miles outer edge the continental margin or 200 miles from the baselines. So this will be reading in the next videos, etc. Right. So this is mainly the territorial sea and what it entails. For example, now there's one typical example of adjacent states and opposite states, right? What would be the formalities, or how would the division take place between adjacent and opposite states for a territorial sea? For example, here they are talking about EEZ, but let's consider that this is a territorial zone only. This extends to, for example, till here. There exists this line, right? So let me enlarge it. Yes. Okay, so there exists this line, and till here is 24 nautical miles. Insert text box. This is 24 nautical miles. 12 nautical miles. So this will be considered as the territorial sea, right? For this state, for this is for state D, right? Now for this state, it will be again from here. This will be the 12 nautical miles, right? So now there you see that there is a clash, or there is an overlapping of this, right? So from here we can derive that it will be divided on equidistance. So that this will reduce their claim of territorial sea. This will also reduce their claim of territorial sea until they come to a median point. That is half point, right? For example, this is the half point from here to here to here. If we draw a line, right? So if we draw a line here, half of this would be here, right? So this is 1 point, and we are drawing points likewise on each, on doing half and half. So this is another point, this is another point, and then we are joining these points, right? And then we are joining these points like this, etc., etc., right? So in this way we can say that this draws a median line between opposite states, and this is till where they will extend their territorial sea, or for example contiguous zone, or for example exclusive economic zone, right? Not infringe upon the right of the opposite state when it overlaps. And if we come to adjacent states as well, then for example there is state E, state D. So from here we are dividing this on points of median. That is, for example, your shoreline was this. So from here the point was here, this distance, and from here the point is, for example, this distance, right? So if these two are same in lengths, then a point is drawn, right? Again, another point, let's draw another point from here and from here. So if these two are same, this is the shortest distance to this point, right? So this is the shortest distance to this point from this point, So not infringing upon this, shortest distance could be this as well, right? From here to here is the shortest distance, right? But you're not infringe upon this point, so we'll not draw it like this. We'll draw it in proportion or at the angle of the other, right? So this angle itself, this angle should be same for both, right? So in this case, again we are drawing these points, and when we have find these points, we again draw a line, right? And this becomes the median line, right? In this case, so here this is how we divide the sea in adjacent states, and this is how we divide the sea in opposite states. So this is all for today's. This is about your territorial sea and the contiguous the territorial sea and its divisions, etc., according to the 1958 convention. Thank you so much.